Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs, and our subjects earthwide. This is a sovereign living ancient, Article 3, Moorish American, Al Moroccan Universal Court action. We are the divine sovereign living justices. Ego sum Pauline Denise Ritchie, sovereign living justice. My chosen sovereign appellation is light tajiri bay. All are in capitis diminution nolo in red ink. In proprio persona sui juris, in proprio solum, and in proprio heredes. We are capit et corpus juris lex and capit et corpus juris legalis, which is our statement that we are the one and only lawful and legal natural living head and body for our empire. All Moors are the divine, original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites, the Canaanites, the Shemites, the Israelites, the Cushites, the Tartarians, the Hittites, and all other first people. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our honor, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves and in no other but ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural divine, sovereign, ancient Moroccan Empire. We are the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are ancient Washington District for Columbia. We're the Universal Moorish American Consulate, and we are the earth-wide Moorish American Consular Court. All articles, but Article 3 in particular, and specifically, we are the law by our sovereign status, which is the original indigenous, natural divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3 living United States District for Columbia Court. And we are the sovereign fiduciaries, original creditors, executors, divine ministers, possessors, grantors, grantors, and title trustors for all causes for action. We govern our system, and our system is the trustee. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby recognize ourselves and accept our own divine sovereign ascension. We do possess in our custody all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. We, the true living God nation, are peace, peace, peace. We are the mother nation. We are the mother nation. We are the matriarchal nation. We are the Mahdi nation. And we are all eternal, ancient, original sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, non-proton. So, our question to this holy, holy, holy Congress, so that we may open the table and consume the knowledge from each other. Our question is, can you describe as a strategy what has happened since 2020? Because it was a strategy, it was a process in 4 steps or 4 processes. So let's go ahead and open let's open the table. Can anyone look back at what has taken place since 2020? Because it was a plan. The plan started, it's always been, and then our great Sheikh Taj held us up while we slept. And then we came to the information and to the knowing of who we are by way of he and the great Sheikhess Rasamariah Bey and the great Sheikhess Anna Aid El and the great Sheikhess Zalil El and some of the other great legendary Moors who are still with us and will be with us forever. And when we say with us, we just mean that we send them our honor. That's what it means. So what was the strategy and the plan? Because see, this Congress had the strategy and the plan the whole time. We were doing the plan, doing the strategy. We stayed with the strategy the whole time. We will to describe that strategy to you now that we're at this point that we're at right now. Islam. So in 2017, 2018, 2017, the Consular Court Restoration Development Team came together with uh, the great Sheikh Tajiri Bey and the great Sheikh Chalet Moore Bey and some of the others, myself and others. That was 2017, 2018. The Moorish American Consulate and the Moorish National Republic federal government said, yes, go do this work. You have our blessing, go do this work. The people came together and said, yes, go do this work. That was on May 18, 2018 at House of Reawakening Minds. Then 2018 and 2019. In 2018, we placed a Universal Commercial Code 1 lien on the actors and all that has to do with the actors because we're the ones who hired them in the first place, so we can't be mad. Can't be mad at them. In 2018, a Universal Commercial Code 1 lien on the actors. And listen, when we placed the lien on the actors, immediately, at once, anything that they were claiming a resource had to minimize and constrict. It was like a slingshot. When we did the lien, this Congress, when we did the lien, everything that they were doing had to stop. That is what 2020 was everything had to stop. They had to stop because they were saying that the Moors are speaking. So and we have the purse strings. Make no mistake about that. We have the purse strings. And so in 2018 and 2019, we said, okay, we'll place this lien and then we'll declare the gold standard for everyone. Because see, we've always been on the gold standard, but we proclaimed it for everyone.
Islam Empress.
Islam nobility.
Is that the, pardon me, the lien that you're referring to, is that the lien on the corporation?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yes. And so that is on the public record. We have the records of that are everywhere. There, Moors took that lien and just tributed it to every actor that was acting as a court, acting as police, acting as judges, acting as whatever. They tributed that. We tributed that everywhere. So that's what happened in 2020. Well, what do they call that strategy? What is that strategy called? That strategy is called Islam Empress.
Nationalization.
It is that. It is that. It's saying that all resources are nationalized. All resources are nationalized. Okay. And then in order to get that message out and let everyone know that all resources are nationalized, because there are so many resources on our land, that takes a while to get the message out and to have everyone know that, yes, the resources belong to the Moors, and we're the ones who make sure that you know, everything is good with everyone, but everyone must first acknowledge. First, be themselves on the land, be who they are. So in the strategy, this strategy has been written about in so many books, but a lot of those books were not made, we were not, they said, don't give them these books so that they will know what to do. Don't give them the books, such as The Art of War. That should have been a textbook. The Art of War should have been a textbook. It should have been a textbook. We're not at war, and we don't need war. We don't, because war just means confusion. But when you read The Art of War, there are strategies there that can be transmuted to peace strategies. So what do they call it? In political science, because that's all the corporations and stuff and all of them were. That's a political thing. It's not real. It's not like dirt that you can pick up and property that you can touch. In political science and policy framework, because we know policy is not the law. Regime change, and regime is just something that's done over and over and over. That's what a regime is. Regime change is broadly understood through 4 fundamental stages or sequential phases of transition. In other words, this is how you change something that people have been doing for so long that they don't know anything different. And so what happened? We put the lien in place, and stage 1, the initial stage, collapse preconditions the breakdown. The initial stage where the existing quote unquote corporation, because it's not a government, it wasn't a government, it never was. See, politically, you can't just be a government just because you say that in all capital letters and black ink. You cannot be a government. You can say words that sound like that, but you can't be a government. You're not real politically. The initial stage where the existing corporation loses its legitimacy, it loses its capacity to rule, and loses the monopoly on violence. How do you do that? Stop the flow of the fiat on a massive scale. This can be triggered by structural issues, economic decline, social distress, internal resistance and revolt, or external pressure, foreign intervention, sanctions, military conflict. A lien is a sanction, and the word sanction has 2 opposite meanings for the same word, depending on how you look at it. When we sanction one another, that means we affirm one another. But to issue a negative sanction is to place a lien or a stoppage or a hold or a freeze on some resource. Justice Online put something really he put something really important in the chat. He said it was after that he noticed the entry of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency actors. He didn't say actors, I said actors, because that's acting too. So that's what happened in 2020, and people don't want to believe that it was a complete collapse, but it was. A collapse from which there's no return for those acting previously as government. It's a wrap. It's done. It's finished. There's no shutting down and then opening back up and shutting down. None of that. You don't have the money for that. You never had the money in the first place. And any resources that you had only came from our signatures and our. So this is the strategy. This is how the strategy starts. There has to be a collapse, a shutting down. So all the places where fiat was flying back and forth, and I'll say this, the churches, that was one of the biggest fiat movers because there was one everywhere, seemingly. That had to collapse. It had to collapse. Now, let me tell you what, collapse doesn't happen all at once, although it really kind of did in 2020. But there's residuals. Collapse, especially one of this magnitude, earth-wide or worldwide. I'll say worldwide. The fiat had to stop moving so freely. And then there's the residuals of that, which is what we're seeing right now. And we'll talk about some of that in a little while. But the churches were one of the main, because that's where the matriarch was in attendance regularly. The most powerful matriarchs were sitting in churches. And our prophet Noble Ali mentioned that. He said some of the best Moors are in the churches. He was right about that. So, Moors, did you know that we were doing structural changes, making structural changes with every lien that we did, every Universal Commercial Code 1 lien that we did, there was structural changes happening as we did them. Huge structural changes. That's why every time an actor is acted as being inaugurated, called a president, and he's acting as a president and being inaugurated, go back and listen to they all talk about infrastructure. They all talk about rebuilding infrastructure. They all talk about that. Why? Because they can tax and all of that. They can tell the people, we need money for roads, we need money for this, we need money for that, and the people will say, well, we gotta pay the taxes.
Islam. And behind that, isn't it the fact that they actually have to, in the fiction, create something new that they have named, because they actually have no true, I mean, they have no access anyway, but they have no access or authority over what was. So it's all part, it's like a building blocks, or, you know, it's a new game board, new, and so, yeah. So the actual teams are actually chopping down or dismantling what was put together, developed in inverted commas in the previous enactment.
Yeah. And see, in order to do that, you have to have the people's buy-in.
Exactly, because you can't do it without the sovereign people, actually. So so that's where the whole brainwashing, silence, tacit acquiescence, all of those things come into play. And so, you know, people will make the statement, oh, I don't get involved in politics, and don't recognize that actually you're the foundation, the base, everything of politics. And by not speaking, by not actioning and recognizing that you're totally allowing politics to run roughshod all over you and your estate and everything else.
Just by being quiet and not doing anything but what you're told. That's how you let them run over you like that.
Quiescing and allowing, believing that you don't have authority and that the fiction, the fraud, has authority over you.
Yeah. And you know what? They can pretend like that as long as they have a little fiat to throw in the way or to charge you with. That's what a charge is. When you get charged with a crime, they're not interested in what you did because they do the same stuff all the time. They don't care about that you ran a light or that you killed somebody. They do that all the time. It's not that. It's the fiat being passed around. That's their infrastructure. That was their infrastructure.
Right. It's you know, that was their boats and their planes and their everything. I mean, it's just something. It is just something else.
Yeah.
And it's, well, I mean, it's just an amazing. It is an amazing time to be here, awake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, you know, the thing, you know what I think about, with your question actually about the, you know, the what happened since 2020 or prior even. Mm-hmm. The first thing that comes to my head with regards to 2020 specifically was that a bell was rung to wake us up.
Yes. Yes.
So that we could action that regime change.
Yes.
Which is so interesting because regime change, when I just think about hearing it throughout the years and in my sleep, it always appeared to be something totally away from me.
Yes.
or the people, or, you know, and by virtue of our awakening, our study, uniting and actioning and executing, I'm using that intentionally, we have brought it into being.
Yes. Yes. We just have to realize that that's what we did.
That piece, as you share what you share and state that, on Friday, there was an island-wide power outage in the enactment. Mm-hmm. There was also, so the U.S. Apparently the largest in the enactment warship came into Kingston Wharf in the enactment here. To June 5th. Mm-hmm. It's a goodwill visit. Now, purportedly, the ship is on its way to being decommissioned at Virginia. Now, there's code. Yeah.
Okay.
On Friday at approximately 9 p.m., lights went out. Now, I wasn't aware that it was island-wide, but because people had texted me and messaged, I realized it's an island-wide outage. This is the day the ship in the enactment left. And at the same time as the island-wide power outage, the JDF building was burning down, which is the Jamaica Defense Force in the enactment.
Really?
Now, does that not look like regime change to you?
It is. It is. Congratulations, Mahdi.
It marks Mahdi Light. It's regime change. I mean, that's like, it just.
It's a major announcement, really, is what that is.
But it's a major announcement of regime change. I mean, yes. I knew it was an announcement. I knew that because, like, come on now. But as discuss what is being discussed at Congress here, it's like, oh, hello.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, it's because of the work that you've done.
Yeah. I mean, really and truly, you would make that statement, you know, years back, and I would hear it, but it never fully, you know, now I know
Yes.
Because one move, one more, and to be here on the land in the midst of it, none of it's accident. And so I affirm. Affirm.
Yes. Islam.
Yeah. Islam, I yield.
Islam. Major, 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 major. Just all we have to do is see the signs, look around and see the signs, because now we know everything was about us. Had a warship come into port, in the previous era when we were enacting being asleep, we wouldn't have thought it had anything to do with us.
Exactly. It's
We would have thought that's somebody else.
That's it. Just like regime change, all of those things are done by others, not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The power.
Yes. It was a strategy. The ancestors had a strategy the whole time with us.
I see that. I definitely, because even, for instance, the things that appeared to be negative were for our benefit.
Yeah.
That piece. And being able to see that really does liberate one. It liberates me. Let me say that. Because to be able to see, even when the cut is bleeding, to see that this is about jus sanguinis. It's not about hurting me. It is about helping me to see.
Yeah. Because it takes we have to have a particular mindset in order to accept the fact that it was all about us. That it takes an expanded mind to actually absorb that properly. You have to actually be mature enough to absorb that properly, and it have the right effects on you.
I'm goosebumping because that is absolutely the truth, as you know. I know this, and it took some work to get there, but I absolutely know, and it was all for me and my ascension, and then ultimately my nation's.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely, yes. We affirm that. And see, here's the thing. The things that we have all been through, the eviction, the POW demonstrations, those enactments, and those things that we went through, that we stood through, those things are the way that they happened and the way that we stood is the proof of the just sanguineous standing and status.
Yes.
And those things had to happen. They had to happen so that those who are us would stand and identify ourselves.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah,
see, those things happen to other people who are not us.
Yeah.
For those who don't even know, they don't, to this day, they still don't know who they are. Those things happened to them and they had no recourse but to obey and bow to the system.
Yes.
But our ancestors said, first tell them who they are and then test them. Tell them who they are and then test them. Tell them who they are and then test them. And let's see the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see who stands and continues to stand.
And continues to stand and continues to stand with love in their heart still.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is no one, nothing can take that knowledge from any one of us. No one.
Because we've been through it, though, Steve. We had to go through it in order for it to solidify.
You cannot know.
Can I interject with a testimony to that?
I'll just finish my statement. I was just going to complete and say that you cannot know unless you experience.
That is correct.
I yield.
Islam. There was another empress who was supposed to make a statement.
Love, yes. This is Patricia Rabe. I just feel compelled to speak on this note because soon after that sanction went into effect in 2018, I was accosted by the municipality of Bellevue and strangled by William Dowsing. Based on a conveyance that I did not transfer title to, being that there was miscommunication as to how I was putting it in trust and the state didn't want to recognize. So at that point, I dealt with that individually, and this went viral during George Floyd in 2020. But let me state that I was accosted because of that lien directly. This happened in Bellevue. It was not transferred. They saw Patricia Rabe, and he just went ballistic. And so 2020, George Floyd, it went worldwide news. All the news stations here, they stopped chokeholds and there were a chain of events based on that event with the, world events going on. I was silenced because I don't conform to the black and white paradigm and the narrative that they were trying to push to, maintain the fraud and oppression. So,
have you declared your nationality?
Definitely.
Okay. Good.
Yes, definitely. And they know, yes, I've been through many situations, and I know it's, this is guidance from many. I'm one of many. But I just wanted to state that that chain of events has me kind of, I know that I'm not alone, but it feels that, that is the case, being that, I am the one on my own in, my own realm right now. Still, in a way, fighting for my life, or part of life.
Let me ask you something.
Not to go. Mm-hmm.
How often do you come to Federal Way, Washington?
That would be no problem. I travel. I have no problem traveling, and I'm right down the street.
Okay. Well, let's meet. Let's you and I meet sometime this week.
Sounds good.
Okay. What I will do is, let me just see where you are here so I can inbox you my phone number.
Right after this happened, a couple of days after it happened, you sent me a text. I reached out to you, and we corresponded real briefly. And yes, but I've tapped into these meetings a couple times, and just today, and especially the energy of that last conversation, it is now time.
Yes, it is now time.
But I have been one in the background that has been maintaining, status so that they know who they're dealing with.
Oh, of course they do. Bellevue, the subjects in the office of Bellevue are just as aware as any other.
Yes.
They know who we are. So that's not even, that's it's not a fight. Let me just say that it's not a fight. It's not a fight, and you're not at war with them because they are already submitted under our authority. So you should have my number there. Let's come together and meet this sometime in the next few days so that we can connect and talk and speak. And
One heart.
yes, indeed.
Peace.
It's time. Yeah, we know that there are a lot of Moors who stay in the background and they're doing their documentation and demonstrating at the level of their overstanding and things of that nature. And when they're really ready, then you know that only you know when
they're done. So it's just time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get together in the next couple of days, next few days, Thursday, Friday, anytime, whatever's good for you.
We work that out. I appreciate that.
So, yeah. Okay. Great.
Okay. Love.
I'm glad that you're here, and thank you for your energy, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Islam. Number 2. So that is what has happened since 2020. That's the first thing. Now, that is an ongoing process. Okay? That's not a one-time thing. It's ongoing until all of the fraud has fallen away. Number 2, this is the first one, collapse. That happened in 2020. It began then, right after we put the liens onto the universal record, because liens that are original and indigenous and ancient liens, such as the one that we created, they first go on the universal record, and then all other records are subject to the universal record. Okay. So even when we first did the lien, some were saying, well, we tried to pull it up on the computer and we couldn't see it. It goes on the land first. Land records and real records, true records first. Then all the other stuff, all the computers and all of that, that's secondary to the real records. Number 2, what happened after that? A power vacuum. What is a power vacuum? People wondering who's the leader and who's this and who's that. And for us, we all are the leaders. Because in a state this big, can't have just one leader. It has to have everyone, all hands on deck. This is everyone. We're all the leaders. And that is what everyone knowing the processes expresses. If I was the only one to do liens and I didn't share that information about how to do liens and things like that, if I tried to be proprietary of that information, that would defeat the purpose of even doing one, really. The purpose of a lien, or to state who the creditors are, that's what liens do. They say this is a creditor and then there's a debtor. When there were enactments of pulling Moors over on the side of the road, that was someone trying to say, Moors, you're not the creditor, we're the creditors, so we're going to here's a lien. That's what a ticket is, a lien. Anything where fiat is being, spread around back and forth, someone is going to be the creditor or acting like the creditor, and someone's going to be acting like the debtor. Because if you all will notice, a lot of that noise has calmed down and stopped. A lot of that noise has stopped of, always pulling folks over and this, that, and this and that. And that. A lot of that noise has simmered down. It's not completely gone away, but it has simmered down to a great extent. Transition. They were saying, the transfer of wealth is happening. The transfer of wealth is coming. Well, this is the critical interim period following the collapse of the old regime. Political institutions are weakened or dissolved, forcing competing factions, elites, and opposition movements to negotiate, jockey for power, or establish a temporary transitional government. We mentioned the transitional government in 2019, somewhere around there. And the only reason that we even use the word transitional, because we've always been the government, is to give those who may have felt like they don't know enough to govern an opportunity to learn some things, so that they will know that, yes, you have the authority to govern. We all have the authority to govern. In fact, there's no alternative to us governing. We don't have a choice. We have to govern our affairs. And so what does the transition look like after the collapse? It looks like what you're seeing right now is more and more of us are competent to govern. That's what transition is learning to be competent to govern, remembering how to govern. We know how to do it. Everyone knows how to do it. That's why the prophet said that there were going to be new Moors coming in with their eyes wide open, knowing exactly what to do. Why? Because it's in our blood. Governing resources is in our blood because we're the source of all resources. So when we do things like we governed ourselves when there were POW demonstrations, jail demonstrations that we were doing, where we said, okay, we're going to do a demonstration, and then while we were doing that demonstration, actors came and acted out something, and then they said, okay, we're going to take and put you in the cell. Well, what did we do there? We said, okay, we know that they're not the court. We know that they're not the government. We know all of that. So what do? We do court action language. And that's how we got out. We do court action language, and we didn't sign anything, and we didn't give them a dime, not one dime, because they hadn't earned a dime. We didn't give them anything. And we said, okay, let's do the court action language, and we'll be the court for our matters. That's us governing our affairs. That's according to the treaty. It's according to the Constitution also. That's according to law. We must govern our own affairs. So I couldn't be mad at them if they were trying to attempt to act like they were governing me, and if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, I can't be mad at them for keeping me in the cell. I'm supposed to be governing my affairs, and then governing them, because they're subjects. All offices are subjects. So we can't be mad at them when they're acting out what we're supposed to be doing. So while they were pretending to have a court over their corpse, I was being the court for 10 days, being the court repeatedly every. And what happened? They said, we have got to get her out of here. She can't stay here. I'm the court, especially if she's judging the affair, the issue, whatever the issue is. We must judge our own affairs. We must. And that's what we did. And the ancestors said, okay, good. Now you know you're the justice. You're the peace. I didn't have to war. I didn't have to argue. I didn't have to fight. All I had to do was, what is your name? Do you understand that no United States corporation, company, citizen, nor their agents, principals, heirs, assigns, nor any derivatives thereof has any titles. Those are not titles for you. And you do not have jurisdiction over the Moors. Do you understand that? And I did that repeatedly, 10 days straight. I did it. And they said, we can't move her off her square. We got to get her out of here. She has to go. So they had to figure out how to do that. They were so anxious to get me out of there that they didn't even bother to change my clothes. I walked out with the uniform on. I still got it. They said, give her this bag of stuff that she came in here with and just get her out of here. She can't be in here. That's the collapse happening right before your very eyes. That's the collapse of that right happening. You're in real time. That's what the collapse looks like. We can't keep her in here. We can't get her into a fake court. We can't get her to capitulate. We got to get her out of here. That's what the collapse looks like. We were actually provoking the collapse. We were provoking the collapse. And then the transition started. Except we don't have to jockey. We don't have to negotiate. We don't have to do any of that. All we had to do was be ourselves. Be the government. That's it. Be the courts. Be the banks. Be the government. That's all we had to do. Number 3, since since 2020. This is the part, when I saw this, I just jumped up and started, celebrating. Installation, building the new system. This is the stage where the new political structure is formally established. And we know we're not new, we're ancient, we know that. It involves writing a new constitution, building institutions, and setting up the rules of the game, i.e. or e.g. establishing electoral frameworks, judicial systems, and new power sharing agreements. And we share power with each other. We place the constitutions on the public record. We have records of that, many, many, many records of that. Building institutions, that's our courts and our banks and everything. And we don't speak without it being a court action, just like this Congress is a court action. We don't speak unless it's our courts. Setting up the rules of the game, creating law, making law. We've already done that. We've spent the last 9 years, this Congress has, doing just that. And then number 4, the final one, is consolidation. The final long-term phase where the new regime, we're ancient and we're not a regime, but repetition is at play here. Rules and procedures, that means the law, are normalized, accepted by the public, and deeply embedded into the nation. Successful consolidation prevents a backslide into autocracy or political confusion, making the new system stable against internal or external shocks. And we don't expect any internal or external shocks, because again, all the shocks happened when we were doing, POW demonstrations and all of that. And now all we do is continue doing what we're doing, which is everything by court action, everything by court action. That's our job, is to be the law. Be the law. That way you don't have to be mad at the faces that you see that are acting things out. They know the law when they see and hear us. And let everything that you say and the things that you write have them match. You got your documentation. The things that come out of your mouth should match that documentation. When I was doing my POW demonstration, the one for 10 days where I fasted for that whole time, the only thing I had while I was in there was an apple, and that was on the first day. And then after that, the ancestor said, "Okay, don't eat the food." So for the 10 days that I was in there, I fasted. And on about the fourth or fifth day, the ancestors, because I was doing court actions the whole time, every time someone would come to the cell, I would just do a court action on them. And then say, and I would give them permission to speak. And if I didn't give them permission to speak, I told them to be quiet. The court hadn't given them permission to speak. And just like I did just now, it's almost like I hit a delete button. Boom, out. Nope, don't speak until we give you permission to speak. And this was in the cell. I'm in the cell and they're outside of the cell. And I would just tell them, be quiet, be quiet. I haven't given you permission to speak. This is a court action. Now, what is your name? And they would tell me their name. They would submit. And then we would make our statements. And then sentence them if we felt like they needed to be sentenced, we would sentence them. Most of the time, we would just sentence them to study the Constitution or spend some time in jail studying it. But while I was in there, and this was my point that I willed to express. At one point, on about the fourth or fifth day, the ancestors had me to write the court action language out on a piece of paper so that I wouldn't forget it. Because as I was fasting and the toxins were coming out of my body with the water that I was drinking, it was doing a little something where you have to actually think like what I just did, what I just illustrated. I would look up and think about the next word to say. And the ancestor said, just write it on paper and read it so that you won't forget or be distracted or be thrown off your square or anything just because you haven't eaten in a few days. So I wrote the court action language on a piece of paper. And every time someone came to the door, I would say it again, and either permit them to speak or tell them to leave and never return.
Islam Empress.
Islam.
Gratitude. My apologies. I have information in the background playing from the airs, but having similar demonstrations to yours, I know to whom much is given, much is required. So I did a goddess council on yesterday, and when you are chosen to be able to do work like this, the tests are different, and me understanding now who's chosen for what, I had to rest in not getting upset because that wasn't their test. They don't understand it because they've never went through it. And some of us were chosen to go through certain things because we can handle those things, but we're called to a level of demonstration that may be different from others. And, I'm fine now that they don't get it, That's not their assignment. So I'm just saying gratitude, and I see you and I know what we do. So gratitude.
Empress, there are some that I've spoken to who say, ooh, I'm not going to do a jail demonstration. I've never been to jail, and I'm not going to jail. No. And some of the ones that said that, the ancestors didn't give them a jail test. They gave them an eviction test or something like that, a different test. And then I gently remind them that, because sometimes they get tired of being tested, and I'm like, you chose that test. You chose that test. I chose my POW test. When I asked the ancestors when I first woke up, I said, well, ancestors, how do we get past fake judges and fake police? How do we get past that? They said, okay, you've chosen your test, so let's get with the testing. And five months after I woke up, I did my first POW demonstration. 5 months. They started pulling us over immediately because we had Morse tags on our conveyance, which we still have. And so I said, okay, well, I guess the way we get past it is go through it and see what to do and develop a process. And when we develop a process on how to get past it, we publish the process and say, this is the law for us, for how we do things. Court action. And it worked like a charm. The second time I did the demonstration, I did that, and they was like, get her out of here. Please get her out of here and don't let her come back. And tell her.
Same here.
And listen.
Same here.
We have the recording where they said she can't come back. And I let you all hear that recording where they're like, no, she has to remain outside of whatever.
They told me you don't belong in here. Get her out of here. Get her out of here.
Yeah, that part. All of that.
And I've even had, like during COVID, a demonstration where I was assisting a younger Moor who had gotten, it was in Illinois Supreme Court. And, well, I can't say court because it was subject to any office of court. They weren't letting anyone else in because it was during the demonstration of COVID. Because of the paperwork that was submitted, they sent the subject in the office of bailiff out to the parking lot to come get me. I go back in escorted by the subject in the office of bailiff. The subject in the office of U.S. Marshal walks in front of me and puts my paperwork in front of me on the bench and walks off. The subject in the office of judge asked me what would I like him to do today? Release the young Moor. I announced who I was, release the young Moor and return him to my custody. Fire the individual that said she was an attorney.
Right.
And that's exactly what he did. The case was removed from the books. I still have the information to this day. So like I said, demonstrations, some of us are called to a level, that others aren't called to. And I'm grateful because that was a beautiful demonstration. And I had other Moors with me at that demonstration. So being able to operate like that is beautiful.
Yes, Islam. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All we have to do is continue to stand and be the court and be the law. And here's what I'm seeing also. As we continue to stand and be the law, the demonstrations that we're being called to do are getting more sumptuous. I could use, or delicious, or larger and more expansive, and they go beyond the first sets of demonstrations that we did. The first sets that we did were POW demonstrations and things of that nature. Now we're doing demonstrations that are just juicy and delicious demonstrations that we already know, we have the tools to do as well. For us, the scariest part was the first or what we thought was scary was the first few demonstrations that we had to do because we were just waking up. We were new to the information, in this presentment. But the more we present, the more we demonstrate, the more we state who we are, and the more we use the tools, the more delicious and sumptuous the demonstrations are becoming and the things that we're doing. So, we're grateful for that. Islam nobility.
Islam.
Islam.
Yeah, this is Captain Ahadel in Pennsylvania territory. Hey, I just wanted to say it's been such an honor to be a part of this congregation. I'm telling you, bro. I wanted to let you know. It started like about 10 years ago. I was the type person, man, so much ego. Thought I knew everything, the ego was out of this world. But I was told by the ancestors to be a part of this congregation and to be a good student, and I think I've I tried to, and it appears in those 10 years, like the brother Tajiri Bey says, he says history and law is inseparable. It's inseparable. So I already thought I knew history, but boy, learning law is really. The demonstrations I've been going through, it may not have been, it has been successful because I've always learned from them. I learned something more. And the thing like the last week or so, all I've been able to do is just sit back and just be amazed at. It's like, knowledge is knowledge and knowing is above belief, but once you get the knowledge, belief becomes unbelievable. It's amazing. I just wanted to give it thanks to be a part of it. I'm so thankful. Islam.
Islam. Justice Kastum, what you stated is so true, because at first, when we first woke up, the knowing was there, but the belief was not. For some, I know for me, I had to say, I know this is true, so I'm going to do it because I know it's true. But the belief was like, we don't know if this is going to work, this and that. But that's why I was grateful to hear other Moors say we don't do feelings and beliefs. When Moors told me that we don't do feelings and beliefs, I was like, okay, great. I can set all of that crap aside because I know this is right. So I'm going to do what I know to do. And that's how we got to where we are even, is we set feelings and beliefs aside, So brilliantly stated, Justice Catherine. Islam.
Islam.
The consolidation piece, consolidation is what the empresses have, the Mahdis have spoken about thus far, about going back and reading all of the things that we put on the record, going back and looking at the videos that we placed on the record, going back and reading and rereading documents that we placed on the record years ago. That's consolidation coming together. It just means we've already done everything. Now all we have to do is continue to speak, continue to strategically manifest all that we see for ourselves and for our nation. Islam. And for that, I am extremely grateful. Consolidation is so helpful because you cannot be coerced or fooled or tricked, because we have so much history with our information. 1 year of doing something every day, it establishes a record. It establishes a track record. It establishes a habit in law, if you do something for 30 days, it is customs and usage and habit for you. It's like people who, you know, I'll just use negative law. People who steal, and they go and they steal and they keep stealing. Every time you turn around, they're showing you something they stole. They've developed a habit of stealing, and stealing is a part of them now. Well, where positive law is concerned, we've been demonstrating and stating who we are every day and every night for a decade. That's No one can deny that we know that. No one can say we're not who we state that we are. We've been saying it for years, without doubt or contradiction. That establishes law for us. Where two or three are gathered and they agree, every word is established. It's the law for all of us. And no one can say that it's not true. Because for years and years and years and years and years, we've been saying it. We've been making those statements. And in some of what some would call some grueling tests, we still said the same thing. Our story didn't change. Our narrative didn't change. Our truth didn't change. And our truth is not going to change. Because the truth is what it is. It's not going to change just because someone says something that sounds a little ugly about our truth. It's not going to change for that. With that being stated, another one of the topics that we will to integrate into this Congress, and again, what we're doing is just pointing some things out so that each one of us knows that the things that we've been doing are absolutely what they should be. Our truth is already accepted by the public. So as you're going on to YouTube and you're going out onto the land and you're going about doing your things and being yourselves and us being ourselves, as we continue to state who we are, you will see that you will find that people are starting to say, "Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. I knew y'all were from here. You know, I knew you've always been here." I had that conversation just the other day with some modern ones. We were at a social event, and at the social event, they were talking about what were we talking? We were talking about. I think they were talking about land ownership. Land ownership, I think. And you know, we're always ourselves. We just stated, yeah, you know, well, some of us have been here since time immemorial. And not a single one at the event, they didn't blink, they didn't argue, they didn't debate, and they didn't say that's not true. And then we said there never was a time when we were not here on this land. And I laughed because, you know, I try to, you know, keep things light in those settings and still let that truth hit that truth center. I said, there was a time when we were not here. You know. And they were like, yeah, we know. No one got up and said, you know, blacks have not been here. No one said anything close to that. You know what I'm saying? Uh, so now we began a long time ago. A lot of this work that we've been doing, yes, we did it to free ourselves, but we also did it because we were thinking about our brothers and sisters who are, you know, who are still asleep. We've been doing the things that we've been doing because we've been preparing for our brothers and sisters who are, for example, they're still in the churches. Our brothers and sisters who are ascribing to those institutions still have to wake up because those institutions are collapsing or collapsed already. That's why people on their jobs, quote unquote, are being treated like trash. It's crazy. So we had to put up a system, bring forth and present the system by which our brothers and sisters could also be saved. Really, that's actually the best. That's the best way that I can put that, is that they would be. We had to put together something whereby they could be saved. So we've done that because we know that whatever system they've ascribed to is collapsed, is finished already. So speaking of getting things, our brothers and sisters who think that they are Black Christians, they're experiencing change. Some are coming out of those institutions, quote unquote, because that's not really what that is. It's not an institution. It's a psychological operation. And some have taken a recent vow that, come what may, they are giving a fresh yes to those psychological operations. And to me, that's very, very that's only coming from those that were supposedly at the top of those prison pyramids, those enslavement pyramids. But see, the top, listen, we didn't have to do anything but lean everything and everyone, all of that stuff. We just had to lean it. Now, Morris, what I'm about to show you is the result of leans that we have done. We know that already. But the system is now starting to assist in dismantling those things, those fraudulent systems. Those systems where we thought our brothers and sisters would never come out of those things, those places. Those psychological operations are being dismantled. And it's by way of the system that it's happening. When we took complete authority over all systems, as done by our ancestors as well, to include the Internal Revenue System, that system then said, okay, The Moors are doing things here. They competently and properly and peacefully taking control of systems. That means that the system has to then turn and dismantle anything that was acting like a system, but that's not real. So what does that look like? It looks like sleeping Moors being tested. That's what it looks like. See, Moors, we need not think that testing was only for us. We were to open the door. That's why many of us were tested years ago until we came up with a system. And once we came up with a system and we put things on the public record and said, this is how you deal with this, then the system said, okay, everybody who was reaping from the previous era system, they have to stop reaping from that. So now they're being tested. All the ones who lived lavishly from the previous system are being tested now. Does that mean that they are tossed to the side and thrown into hell? No, it means they have to come out of the system and be who they really are. That's where we come in. Yes, we prompted the actions. We prompted the liens so that, because for some, they were so comfortable they would not wake up unless they were facing a test that they felt like they could not deal with. And that's what's happening. Millions in IRS tax liens. And this is not the only one. I just chose this story, but if you go out there on the web, you'll see way more stories than this. So with that being stated, the system has been made right side up. It's made it so that those who are asleep will wake up. They have to wake up, because if they don't wake up, and they'll wake up, because they're being pushed into a corner and being made to wake up. All we had to do was keep building and keep moving liens, levies, bonds, titles, deeds, creating, allowing occupancy and speaking and using our money, which we have trillions, and we have an endless amount of money. We all are aware of that. Our money is worth more than, just one of our dollars is worth more than all the fiat put together. But as you can see, the system is now saying, okay, the creditors have spoken. They want their stuff. Not want. We will to proclaim our things. All that belongs to us. So those who were previously holding things that belong to the Moors, whether it be property or whatever, have to give up those things, or properly proclaim them. Properly proclaim them. So now, if we were to assist these ones here, and I'm not saying that we will, because they have their own work to do. What we would do, Morris, is to see, these right here were not given the proper information when they agreed to be Christian leaders, quote unquote. They were not given the same information that the ones who created that stuff, or the ones who made that stuff, and who that stuff is for. They weren't given the right information tax-wise, or if they had been given the right information, they would not have the problem that they have. So I will to show you, because we recently started, well, activated, not started, activated our Moorish Holy Temple for Science. And we will to show you how these ones here who have this issue here about facing millions in IRS tax liens, we know we're not taxed. Moors, we're not taxed. But we have to use our system in order to express that properly. So having activated our temple, we now have to, it is in our best interest to know how to express ourselves so that our internal revenue system continues to work for us. I used to think that all 501c3s or all nonprofit corporations had to be a 501c3. That's not true. Okay. Now, remember, Moors, we are the internal revenue. We know that. We've already set up our internal revenue, and we use it. So I asked the AI if a 501c3 is a corporation. Okay. The way we set our things up is we set our things up by affidavit. We don't fill out U.S.debtor forms or anything like that. We restate everything. Everyone must know that. We restate everything. So when we hear this kind of information, it is to our advantage to do affidavits and send it to our internal revenue so that all that we're doing is what it should be. So a 501c3 is almost always a nonprofit corporation. Almost. That means that there are some that are not. So it says almost always a nonprofit corporation. Now, I didn't know 501c3s were corporations, but obviously they don't have to be. But the two terms describe different legal aspects of the same corporation. We have our own legal system. We've already set up our own legal system. Everything is already done. Now what we're doing is finessing what we're doing so that we get the most return out of all that we do. The simplest way to understand the difference is a nonprofit corporation is a state-level legal structure formed to serve the public rather than to make money for owners or shareholders. And then separate from that is a 501c3, a federal tax status granted by the IRS. So our Moorish Holy Temple for Science is a nonprofit. It's not a nonprofit corporation, it's a nonprofit. We don't have to have the word corporation on there. It's a nonprofit entity, a being, a structure, a people. So it is state level, and because we are the state, we get to say how our temple is structured. So our temple is a nonprofit. It is created to assist the public, and this is something that those who are facing IRS liens, quote unquote, those ones that we just showed you, we're not facing any of that because we don't have to. and we've already put liens on the public record as well anyway. We're the internal revenue, and we wouldn't lien ourselves. So those who have that, all they need to do is restructure, and then make that restructuring. Because see, the one thing I didn't tell you about these, well, right now these persons who were acting as bishops, is that their church, quote unquote, first began in 1835. 1835. The year 1835. So they shouldn't be looking at any of the stuff that they're looking at. They shouldn't be facing any of that. But it's some things that they don't know. And listen, you can pray and pray and pray, but you better get to studying and knowing who you are, so that this kind of stuff is not applicable to you. A church that was formed in 1835, that's before there ever was a quote-unquote IRS. Now, Morris, we are all clergy and chief justices for our temples. We all are. So this information is important, especially when it comes to housing.
Okay. Yes, Mom, I affirm.
So let's look a little further, because I asked some other questions and got some more information. It says, does a nonprofit owe taxes? It says no, a tax-exempt nonprofit. It doesn't say 501c3, it says a nonprofit. It doesn't even say a nonprofit corporation, it says a nonprofit. A tax-exempt nonprofit does not owe federal corporate income tax on revenue related to its charitable mission. Payroll taxes, we don't even give wages. Everyone can get an annuity, because annuities are not taxed, or everyone can get a housing, and we'll explain that in just a minute too. Unrelated business income tax. Nonprofits pay corporate income tax on profits from the corporate arm of that nonprofit. So your nonprofit shouldn't have a corporate arm, because it doesn't have to have one. We can sell salt and not be a corporation. We can do that. Let's take a look here at taxes nonprofits must pay: payroll, unrelated, and state and local. And again, that's if they have employees, which we do not. None of us are employees of our temples. None of us are employees of our temples. We don't have any unrelated business income tax, because it's not called income. When we issue salt for healing purposes, that's customs and usage for us. For healing purposes, everything we do is to heal the nation. So none of it is taxed. It's not a sale. Okay, so let's look a little bit further. Because again, we never needed that previous system, to be honest with you. We didn't need the fiat system. So taxes nonprofits avoid: federal corporate income tax, because a nonprofit is not a corporation and has no income, period. And then no taxes are owed on donations. Listen, we've taken in trillions of dollars in donations. Trillions of dollars in donations. We've taken in trillions. We don't owe taxes on any of it. Trillions in gold, trillions in silver, and trillions in more sovereign dollarium.
Islam, because it's not their money. It's our resource that we're taking in, and it's not their script. It's ours. It's ours that we've created.
But you know what? We do have a system that we honor. So we have to look at this stuff because we have a system that we honor. And the system will tax if there is not proper categorization and competence at issuing, tributing to the people. We must be competent to tribute to the people, or the system will raise up a flag and say, wait a minute, you're causing a tax to be issued here or required here. So we have to look at this because there are rules and laws to the game. And it's not a game, it's real. Yes, there are requirements. If there were no requirements, it would be chaos and war and confusion. So no taxes are owed on donations, grants, fundraising, or mission-related revenue. That covers everything, really. There are federal unemployment tax. Okay, we don't have that because we don't have employees. Capital gains tax. Nonprofits typically do not pay taxes on investment income or stock profits. Did you know that? The Mormon Church is a prime example of that. That's how the Mormon Church got, quote unquote, Mormon Church got so big. They're not really the Mormon Church, we are. But that's how they got so big. And the quote, the actors that were acting as Church of Scientology. How did they get so big and all of that? There were a bunch of movie stars who were looking for places to hide money from taxes. They were looking for tax shelters. So they joined Scientology because Scientology, and I'm doing air quotes every time I say that, Scientology knew these things here and knew how to do paperwork so that they could prosper and prosper and prosper and prosper, and no one could say, oh, they're not doing the right things. They're stealing. No one could say that because they knew how to do the paperwork actions and acts. Capital gains tax. Nonprofits typically do not pay taxes on investment income or stock. So our estate requires that we are competent at using our system that we created. That's why we restated everything. That's why we started using internal revenue system letterhead to send things out and to say things and do things. And as we're continuing to expand with our Moorish Holy Temple for Science, which I'm just extremely excited about, we see too that, again, each and every one who is willing to know these things and to do the work can prosper greatly. So the next thing, it says here, how to keep tax-exempt status. File the Form 990, and of course we don't do forms, we do affidavits. But this 990 is one that we talked about before previously, and it's not even a necessity. Some don't. It's not mandatory. This says nonprofits must file an annual informational return. An informational return can be an affidavit that says we don't owe anything because we don't have any quote unquote income and all of that stuff. It's the things we just talked about. So I will, to show this information to you, let me just show you here. This is the part that really just How to legally maximize tax exclusions. While you cannot eliminate income tax on a baseline salary, and again, we don't have a salary, and here's why. The church board, not the church for us, it's the temple, can take immediate action to shield a massive portion of the pastor's compensation through the housing parsonage allowance. Empress Angel, we talked about parsonage recently.
Yes, indeedy.
And look at this. It says here, and we're going to do this today for everyone. We're going to do this today. We're going to take immediate action to shield a massive portion of our compensation, it's not income, through the parsonage allowance. So every one of us today, we're going to vote where the temple is concerned for immediate action for housing parsonage allowance. So let's say, for example, this story that we showed you previously, this one right here about the bishop's IRS lien. It's so they in the story. I listened to the story. It was about 2 or 3 minutes on YouTube. They gave the problem and they gave the solution in that same story, but they're not going to tell you this is the problem and this is all they have to do to get rid of it. They talked about how they had $3.1 million in taxes that they are supposed to pay, but the house that they have is $1.5 million. They obviously they don't know how to take a parsonage, they don't know how to do what we're talking about right now, to do a parsonage allowance. Formally designate a housing allowance. This is what the board is going to do today, and we'll all do it today. It says, by Internal Revenue Code Section 107, an ordained minister can completely exclude the cost of their housing from federal gross income. The church's responsibility. The church board must pass a written resolution before January 1st of each year or before the pastor's first day, designating a specific dollar amount of the salary as a housing allowance. The impact says if a pastor is paid $60,000 and the board designates $25,000 as a housing allowance, the pastor only owes federal income tax on $35,000. If the housing allowance matches or safely accounts for their entire reasonable compensation and living costs, their federal income tax liability can drop to zero. So this right here, the cost of their house plus their expenses would have came up to $3.1 million if they had properly had the board to do what the board should do, which is entitle them to it. Now we know that because we own everything, we're not going to skimp on ourselves. We're not even going to call it a salary. It's going to be housing allowance from the very beginning.
All 32 of you are just...
Yep. Wealthy, extremely wealthy. So we're going to take a vote on housing allowance for each and every one of us. We're all the temple anyway. So let's take how much should we allow for housing? I'm thinking somewhere around between $10 and $100 million allowance for housing. I'm just thinking out loud. And you can choose a housing allowance at your will, whatever housing allowance you feel is necessary. What do you think? Islam.
the number you just mentioned, is that individually or for everyone?
It's individually.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Because I sort of laughed because I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Islam, is that per year? Islam.
Yes. It has to be per year because every year it's done at the board agrees on that every year at the beginning of the year. Okay.
Islam, I affirm.
Islam, I affirm.
Islam.
Islam, I affirm. However, you gave two amounts. So is it the 1 billion million or the 10 million?
I said between 10 million and 100 million, depending on your temple.
Okay, so between 10 and 100.
Islam. So we can affirm the between 10 to 100.
Yeah.
And then the question I had is, and each annum this will be revoted on, or
it'll just be restated.
Thank you.
Said again. Yeah.
Right.
Islam. Tonus al-Jabe, I affirm.
Islam.
Islam. Check to my head, L. Affirm.
Islam.
Rashida Mustafa, I affirm.
Mahdi Angel Mahatma, I affirm.
Chief Justice Ahmed Jellison, Jamaica Territory, I affirm.
Islam, Darius Barcel, Arizona Territory, I affirm. Islam.
Chief Justice and Bay, Jamaica Territory, I affirm.
Oh my. Islam.
Go ahead, Islam. Islam. Go ahead, Justice Kansu.
Chief Justice Consul Khatib Bay, I affirm.
Islam.
Can you hear me, Aisha Elbay?
Islam, Empress. Islam.
I affirm.
Islam.
Islam. Rahman Salaki Bay,
Islam. Justice Al Rahman, we received your vote. Empress Cynthia, we received your vote as well.
Islam. Chief
Islam.
Justice Malika Tilbay, Illinois Territories, I affirm.
Islam.
Islam. Chief Justice C.P.T. Deal, Detroit Territory, I affirm.
Islam.
Islam.
The Pauline Denise Ritchie, I affirm.
Islam, Chief Justice Mahdi Angelica Dobbs Bay, Sachaby Territory, I affirm.
Islam.
Islam, Chief Justice Nathaniel Bay, Sachaby Territory, I affirm.
Islam.
Patricia Rabe, Creation Station, affirm.
Islam. Anyone else?
Islam. Remember easy go, Shaka Maximum Territory. Islam. I affirm.
Islam. Great to hear your voice. Nobility. Islam.
Great to hear your voice too.
Islam. Anyone else?
Islam.
Islam.
Abdullah from Toronto, I affirm.
Islam. Thank you, nobility. We have done what is necessary, which is to, now you all do know that that is again taking a part of what would have been a salary. It's not a salary. It's really just an annuity that we have. So tax, okay? Because even with our system has to be honored, and we will know how to move in our system. Because guess what? Other people will be doing things in our system as well, who our subjects will be doing things, and people from other lands will be doing things in our system as well. Okay? So we hereby state that the board has passed a resolution, a specific range of the dollar amount as a housing allowance, and that again is between 10 million and 100 million for housing. The reason why the housing allowance is what it is in terms of being between 10 million and 100 million is because there is a mass movement that has taken place in the housing range for those houses that are larger. A lot of those who were occupying those houses are no longer there, and so there's a vacuum. Those houses that are between 10 million and 100 million dollars, for us, those houses there's an overabundance of them because of the collapse that we talked about at the beginning of this Congress. And so with that being stated, any any money or compensation that comes aside from the housing allowance is going to be an annuity. So each and every, and we will agree on this. I'm saying that it's going to be that, but we do still have to agree on it. The reason I call it an annuity and not a salary is because a salary is taxed. But we call it an annuity because an annuity is not taxed. So the annuity can be an annual amount that comes from the temple that is given, and we can determine whether we will to issue that annual amount monthly, but it's an annual amount, but we just issue it monthly. That is over and above the housing allowance. And because it's an annuity, it's not taxed. And that's why we would, it would be to our benefit to call it an annuity instead of calling it an income or a wage or a salary. Do we all agree to accepting an annuity as compensation for our work?
Islam, I accept.
I affirm.
Islam, yes, I affirm.
Islam, I affirm. Islam, I affirm.
Jerry Barthel, Islam, I affirm.
Islam.
I affirm.
Islam.
Islam.
Chief Justice Mahdi Shasha Anbay, Jamaica Territory, I affirm.
Islam.
Islam. Rahman
Islam.
Sharaki Bey, I affirm.
Islam. Islam. Chief Justice Mahdi Pauline Denise Ritchie, Islam. I affirm. Chief Justice Pauline Denise Ritchie, I affirm. Islam. Islam. So this way, we are honoring our system and still remaining not taxed like our ancestors meant for us to be. They meant for us to not be taxed because we're not U.S. citizens and subjects. With that being stated, that is going to mean that salaries will be, not salaries, but annuities and compensation for our work. It's going to be high. The compensation is high, but we got some catching up to do, so it should be high. You know, it should be. And for us and for other nations, we are when you look at, and I'll just put it this way, when you look at quote unquote royal families like over in Dubai and different places like that, you will see where what we're stating is not far-fetched at all, not by a long shot. What we're talking about, what we've agreed to, what we're doing, they learned that from us. They learned to live that well from us. Islam. In the chat, we see you. Islam. Mahdi Amora. Islam. And all the others, we see you in the chat there.
Islam.
So, you know, they learned to live that way from us. And so we're just doing what we always do. We are living the way we've always lived. With that being stated, that is all that we have at this time. I will to just, before we adjourn for this platform, I will to just send out again, we did this on Thursday, but we're going to do it again today so that the grand body may know that Chief Justice C. Petit L., we just will to just thank you again. What he has done is he has kept the minutes for this Congress since the very beginning almost. 8 years. He has all the handwritten minutes, dates and times, and the topics for this Congress, and he has kept that for 8 years. And we just will to state that we are just so honored and just amazed. I can't say that we're surprised because we know you're very powerful, but this Congress thanks you for keeping the archives, and that's yet another presentment and proof that we are who we state that we are. We have the records to prove it. That's the only way anything is proven, is by records. That's what courts do. They look for proof and evidence. And if you can present proof and evidence, then it's accepted by the court. And when it's accepted by the court, it's accepted by the people, the public. So we don't have to worry about whether people believe that we are who we state that we are. It is written, just like Yeshua said. It is written, it is written, it is written. We are exactly who we state that we are. And our manifestation is just growing day by day in terms of 8 years of records, 8 years of records, handwritten records. That's the stuff that we put in on exhibit at our temples and say this happened. This is how it happened. This is how we did this. Islam. We have so many different sets of records everywhere. And I will tell you, as we were going through this movement that we're doing right now, where our domicile is being, things are being remodeled and removed around our domicile. I don't know if they meant to try and do that, but I don't believe in coincidences. They were trying to get out the door with our records, and we stopped them and said our records will stay here. And so, Chief Justice C. Petit L., we just will to honor you before the whole grand body and nation. We honor the work that you have done. And for you, we are grateful. Islam. Islam, Islam.
Islam honest.
Islam honest. Empress, did you see my message?
We will adjourn if there's nothing further. Does anyone have anything further for the conference?
Islam, just a message from Chief Justice Empress Sasha. Could you please give me a call after the Congress?
Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original and indigenous, natural, divine heirs, and our subjects. Islam.
Islam. Thank you.
Peace and grand rising.
Peace and grand rising. Love you all.
Thank you, more.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Grand rising.
Islam, Empress?
Islam.
I asked if you could meet with you briefly after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Ronnie LB, I affirm.
Islam.
Islam. Islam, Empress.